I want to open tonight with something so obvious it feels a little silly to say out loud. When I measure a thing, the length of a table, the weight of an apple, the warmth of a cup of tea, I'm finding out something that was already true. The number was sitting there on the object, minding its own business, and my instrument just wanders over and reads it off. That's the whole of what measuring means. Tell me that still holds and we can all be in bed by 9.
I can't tell you that. In the world your senses were raised in, yes. The number is sitting there, and the ruler reads it off, and everyone goes home. But go small enough, down into the quantum, and very often there is no number sitting there at all. Nothing to read. The value you believe you're measuring does not exist, until the instant you ask for it. And the asking doesn't uncover the answer, it makes one.
Wait, makes one. You're telling me I don't find the answer waiting for me. I manufacture it in the very act of looking for it.
That's the first uncomfortable thing about tonight, and I'll warn you now, it isn't even the strange one.
Of course it isn't. It never is with you. Go on then, what's the strange one?
Every question you're allowed to put to the quantum world arrives with its own short list of answers it's permitted to give back. A fixed menu. And nature will never, not once, not for you, not for anyone who has ever lived, hand you an answer that isn't printed on that list.
A menu. As in, I may certainly ask my question, but I have to choose from a pre-printed card and the little line at the bottom that says, or anything else I happen to fancy, simply isn't on it.
Isn't on it, never was on it, and cannot be written in. Which leaves the two of us with 2 questions to sit inside all evening, and I don't intend to let either one wriggle off early. Why does reality come pre-printed with a fixed list of allowed answers at all? And how on earth can the act of asking a question be the thing that makes its answer real?
Those are not gentle questions to crack open on a weeknight. And I notice you've stated them and then just left them lying there on the table, unanswered, which is your favourite trick.
It's the only decent way to start. If I hand you the answer before you feel the weight of the question, you'll nod and forget it by morning. So sit in the discomfort a moment. Where does a person even take hold of a thing like this?
I don't know. That's why I pay you. Where?
With one word and a small switch it throws in your head. A switch that sounds like a point of grammar and turns out to be the whole game. In the world you know, a measurable property, let me give it the proper name, an observable, is a number the object carries about with it. Its energy is a number. Its position is a number. They ride along on the thing like a name tag pinned to a coat.
Right, the electron has an energy the way I have a height. It's a property. It's just there, stamped onto it, whether or not anybody's checking.
And that stamped-on picture is exactly the thing the quantum quietly takes out and buries. In its world, an observable is not a number stamped on the state. It's an operation you perform on the state, a thing you do to it. You don't read the energy off the electron, you do energy to it as an action, and the state answers back by doing something in return.
You're going to have to slow right down, because you just used energy as a verb, and something in my brain has filed a formal complaint. Energy is a quantity. It's a number with units on it. How in the world do I do a quantity to something?
Think about what doing something to the state could even mean. The state, the wave we've spent 2 weeks on, is a thing that can be pushed, turned, reshaped. An operation is just some definite way of reshaping it. Take the wave, do a particular thing to it, get a new wave out. That's all an operation is. A machine that eats a state and hands you back a state.
All right, a machine that eats a wave and spits out a wave. I can hold that. But where does the measurable quantity come into it? A machine isn't a number either.
Here's the founding move of the whole subject, and it really is the hinge everything else swings on. Nature pairs up each measurable quantity with one particular way of reshaping the state. Energy gets paired with a certain reshaping, position with a different one, motion with another. Ask the question, how much energy, and what you are really doing, underneath, is applying the energy reshaping and watching what comes out.
So there must be a whole herd of these operations then, one for energy, one for position, one for motion, one for every last thing I might be nosy enough to try and measure.
One for every question the world can be put to, yes. A whole family of reshapings, each one standing in for a different curiosity of yours. And here's the part that ought to feel like a conjuring trick. This single idea, that a question is an action, is the master key to the entire subject. Every strange thing we meet tonight, the menu, the jump, the fog between certain pairs, all of it comes tumbling straight out of that one move, the instant you're brave enough to follow it the whole way down.
So the question and the action are the same object. When I ask the electron, how much energy have you got? I'm not squinting at a label sewn into its collar. I'm reaching in and doing the energy reshaping to it.
That's the switch, and you've thrown it cleanly. The observable is the verb, not the noun. Physicists even have a bloodless little name for the verb. They call it an operator, the operation that stands in for the question. But don't let the word chill you. It just means a question is a thing you do to the world, not a sticker you peel off it.
But surely position is different in kind from energy. Where a thing is, that's just out there, a plain fact about the room, not some action I perform on anything. You can't seriously tell me that location, of all things, is a verb too.
Location most of all, and it's the one that finally convinces people. Where are you is its own reshaping of the wave, its own operation with its own settled states. And those settled states are the ones spiked hard at a single spot, each one tagged with the place it's spiked at. So when you ask where, you're doing that particular operation to the wave, and the wave answers by snapping itself onto one of those spikes and handing you the spot it chose.
Fine, I'll carry the verb around for a bit and see if it chafes. But let me say plainly where my resistance is digging in. If asking is doing, if every question reshapes the wave, then most of the time I must be shoving the poor state all over the place, just by being curious. What does this reshaping actually do to it? Does it come out mangled?
Ah, now you've walked straight to the beating heart of it, faster than I meant to get there. So let's go. Take some ordinary, run-of-the-mill state and do one of these operations to it. Most of the time, nearly always, it comes out changed, swung into a different state, reshaped into something that is genuinely not what you started with.
Which sounds like a catastrophe for measuring anything. If the question scrambles the state every single time I ask it, how do I ever get a straight answer out of the thing? I'd be interrogating a witness by punching him.
Because nearly always is not always, and the exceptions are the entire evening. For each operation, for each question, there is a special handful of states that the operation does not scramble. You do the reshaping to one of them, and it comes out as itself, the same state, pointing the same way, as it were. The only thing that's changed is that it's been scaled, turned up, made louder, but not turned into anything new. It's left standing as exactly what it already was.
Left as itself, only louder. Give me something to hang that on, because right now it's very abstract, and I don't trust an abstraction I can't picture in my hands.
Then let me hand you back something from the classical nights, because you already own this picture. You just don't know it's the same one you've been carrying. Remember the natural notes.
The natural notes, back when we did energy and motion, the idea that a complicated thing, left to itself, mostly makes a tangled mess, but it's got these special clean patterns hidden inside it, each one ringing at a single pure pitch.
That very idea, and I'll confess it now, it was planted precisely so I could dig it up tonight. Take a bell, hit it any old how, a careless clang, and you get a jangle, a smear of overlapping tones, all fighting, dying away untidily. But a bell has a small set of pure patterns of vibration it truly wants to make.
And if you can coax it into just one of those pure patterns,
It doesn't smear. It rings at one clean pitch and holds its shape while it rings. It stays itself. Strike it into that pattern alone, and it doesn't wander off into some other pattern. It sits there, being the note it is, only louder or softer. That pattern is settled. It's at peace with being struck.
then why do most states thrash at all? If every question comes with its own tidy set of pure notes, why isn't every state just quietly parked on one of them, behaving itself like a decent citizen?
Because the world has no interest whatever in tidying itself for our convenience. Left to its own devices, a state is usually some careless blend of many pure notes at once, the way a struck chord is a fistful of pitches, not one clean tone. Nothing anywhere obliges a state to be pure. Purity for a given question is the rare and special case, and the whole drama of measuring is precisely what nature does when you drag a blended, impure state up to the counter and force it to answer a question it was never settled for.
And those pure patterns are your special states, the ones the operation leaves standing as themselves, just turned up.
Promoted, whole and entire, into the quantum. For every question you can ask, there's a special set of states that behave like the bell's pure notes. Do the operation to one of them, and it just rings, holds its shape, comes back as itself only scaled. Every other state is a jangle, a mix of those pure notes piled together. The pure ones get a name worth keeping, the settled states for that question. The states that don't get scrambled when you ask.
I like settled. There's a calmness in it, the states that sit still under the question, instead of thrashing around when you poke them.
That's exactly the feeling to hold. Most states thrash, a precious few sit still. And now, here is the peace the whole night has been walking toward, so I'm going to say it slowly, because if you catch this one, everything else falls into your lap. Each one of those settled states comes tagged with exactly one number, and that number is the value the quantity actually has when the system is sitting in that state.
So the settled state doesn't merely ring, it rings at a particular value. The pure note comes with its pitch written on the side of it.
Written on the side, one number, no ambiguity, no smudge. The bell's pure pattern rings at one definite pitch. The settled state of the energy question carries one definite energy, its own and no others. And now, the sentence that quietly reorganizes the whole of physics. Those tagged numbers, and only those, are the answers a measurement can ever give you. That is the menu. Every settled state's tag is one line on the card. Nothing else is on it. Nothing else can be.
But that can't be the whole of the story, surely. There has to be some reason a value from between two rungs is forbidden. Nature doesn't just ban things out of pure spite, does she? What's actually stopping an in-between answer from ever turning up on the card?
Nothing stops it, so much as there's simply nothing there to turn up. Go back to what the answers even are. They're the tags riding on the settled states, and the settled states are a particular, separate set. This note, then that note, then the next one along, standing apart like the rungs of a ladder, with no wood at all between them. For an in-between answer to appear, there would have to be an in-between settled state to carry its tag, some pure note sitting halfway up the gap. And for these questions, there just isn't one. So the empty stretch on the menu isn't a rule nature nailed up over the top to keep you out. It's plainer and stranger than that. It's simply a length of ladder where no rung happens to exist, and you can't be handed the tag off a rung that was never built.
Say that once more, slowly, because I want to feel the walls of the room close in. The only answers I can ever get out of a question are the tags sitting on its settled states. And that's the entire list. For all time.
That's the entire list, for all time. Ask the question, and whatever comes back is one of those tags. Never a value from between two of them, never a value off to one side, never a compromise. Those tagged numbers are the allowed values, and there's a name for them worth meeting once and then mostly forgetting. Physicists call them the eigenvalues, the special allowed values of a question. But the menu carries the truth of it far better than the jargon does, so let's keep the menu.
But who actually sets the tags? The settled states, the allowed values on the card? Where do those particular numbers even come from? Does nature keep a laminated menu in a drawer out the back?
The operation itself sets them, both of them, in one stroke. Fix the question, fix the reshaping, and you have automatically fixed which states it leaves standing and what single number tags each one of them. The menu isn't filed away anywhere at all. It falls straight out of the question, the very moment you decide which question you're asking. Ask a different question, a different reshaping, and you get a wholly different menu. Different pure notes, different tags, a different card entirely, printed for you on the spot.
Then let me test this restaurant, since apparently that's the establishment we've wandered into. I sit down, I unfold the card, and I say to the waiter, "I would like, please, an energy of exactly this much. A nice round in-between amount that I've chosen purely because I fancy it." What happens?
The waiter doesn't even glance up from his pad. "Not on the menu, sir. We do this rung, and we do that rung, and we do the rung above that, and there is nothing whatsoever between them. You are most welcome to any item on the card. You may not invent one, and I'd thank you not to try."
No substitutions. In a restaurant that's merely rude. In physics, it turns out to be the deepest law in the building.
It's the reason the world is lumpy at all. And lumpy is worth pausing on, because it's the word the whole subject is named after. Think of the atom. Its allowed energies don't run smoothly up a ramp, any value you please. They climb a fixed ladder of rungs. This energy, or that one, or the one above, and never a landing in between. That ladder is nothing but the menu of the energy question made visible. The settled states are the rungs. Each rung's tag is one allowed energy.
And this, I'd bet, is where your old friend Hamilton strolls back into the room. Because energy was always his object, wasn't it?
Slightly, yes. I'll tip my hat to him and let him pass through. Back in the classical episodes, the energy of a system, written out in full, went by his name, the Hamiltonian. Promote it to the quantum, and it becomes precisely this: the energy question, the operation you do to the state to ask how much energy. And its settled states are the natural notes we just spoke of, each ringing at its own energy. A system's ladder of allowed energies simply is the menu of that one question.
So the natural notes weren't a charming aside back then. They were a trailer for tonight, running before the main feature, and I didn't know I was watching one.
They were the doorway, and we've just walked through it together. One more thing about the menu before we ask what happens when you actually place an order. The menus aren't all the same length. Some are gloriously short. Next week you'll meet a question whose entire menu is 2 items, up or down, and nothing ever between them.
A menu with 2 lines on it. That's not a restaurant. That's a vending machine with 2 buttons and a broken coin slot.
It's the simplest question the universe knows how to be asked, and it's coming for you. Other menus are longer, a great ladder of rungs, and a few even run continuous. The plain, "Where are you?" question can answer with any point in the room, a menu with no gaps at all, smooth as you like.
So not everything comes in lumps. Some questions do have the "anything I fancy" line after all.
Some do. Place is one. But even there the rule doesn't bend, it only stretches. The menu is still fixed in advance, still the full set of the question's settled states, and you still only ever get an answer that's genuinely on it. Short, long, or continuous, you order from the card, never off it.
Right, I've got the card memorized now, so here's the thing I actually walked in for. I place my order, I ask the question, I do the operation. What happens? What does the measuring actually do to the poor state?
Two cases, and they could hardly be more different, so let's take them apart one at a time. First, the gentle one. Suppose the state is already sitting in one of the settled states for the question you're about to ask. Already a pure note, before you say a word. Then you ask, and you get its tag, for certain. No dice, no chance, no drama at all.
And the state, is it bruised by the asking in that case?
Not a hair on it. It was settled, you asked. It told you, and it's still exactly the state it was a moment before. Ask again, you get the same answer again. That's the tame case, and I'll be square with you, it's the rare one.
I had a feeling. The tame case is always the one you mention just before the floor gives way. So, the other case.
The other case is the usual one, and here the floor does give way. Suppose the state is not a pure note. Suppose it's a jangle, a mix, a blend of several settled states all piled together at once. A superposition in last week's word. You ask your question, and the state cannot answer with a blend, because a blend is not on the menu.
Because the menu only lists the pure notes. There's no line on the card for a little of this rung and a little of that one, thanks.
None. There never can be. So the measurement does something violent. It forces the state to jump, to leap out of the blend and land on just one of the settled states that were mixed inside it. One pure note plucked out of the chord. And it hands you that one's tag as your answer.
Plucked out how? Chosen by what? Does the state choose? Do I choose? Who in this transaction is deciding which note it lands on?
Nobody chooses. It's random. But, and this is the moment last week pays for tonight's dinner in full, it is not evenly random. The odds are set, exactly, by the rule you bled for a week ago. Each settled state sits in the blend with a certain amount of presence, its own little arrow, its clock hand, with a length to it. Square that length, and you have the chance the jump lands there.
The square the arrow rule. The longer a note's arrow inside the blend, the likelier the jump snaps onto that note.
To the letter, and it's rather lovely that it drops straight in here. A settled state that's strongly present, long arrow, is a probable landing. One that's barely in the mix, a stub of an arrow, is a long shot. An arrow of nothing at all never happens. The blend quietly holds all the odds. The square of each arrow's length is the chance. The jump obeys those odds and picks one note. That's the whole engine of the quantum dice, and you built the engine yourself, last time, with your own 2 hands.
Let me try to actually turn the crank on this engine then, with the plainest case you'll allow me, so I know the thing runs in my hands and not just in yours. Say the state's an even blend of only 2 rungs, the bottom of the ladder and the one directly above it, half and half. I ask it for its energy. Walk me through what nature does, step by step.
Gladly. It's the cleanest possible turn of the crank. 2 notes in the blend, each carrying an arrow of the very same length. So square each arrow and the 2 chances come out even. Half and half, a tossed coin. Nature flips that coin, and the state jumps, landing either on the bottom rung or the one just above, with no power on earth able to say beforehand which of the pair it'll be. You read off whichever rung's energy you got handed, and the blend is simply gone now. The state is purely that one rung, and it'll swear to it, the same answer, every single time you ask again.
And after the jump, the state that walked in as a blend, what's it doing once I've got my single answer in my pocket?
It isn't a blend anymore. That's the part that unsettles people, and I think it should unsettle you. Once the measurement forces the jump, the state is that settled state now. The one it landed on, and only that one. The blend is simply gone, wiped. Ask the very same question again, a heartbeat later, and you'll get the same answer, dead certain. Because it's a pure note now, and pure notes answer for sure.
And that repeat, the fact that it now coughs up the very same answer every single time, that's my proof, isn't it? That's how I actually know the state genuinely changed under my hands, and that you're not just spinning me a tale.
It's the whole tell, and it's worth dwelling on, because it's the one place you can catch the change red-handed. Before you asked, the state was a blend, and a blend, questioned over and over, would have thrown you a scatter of different answers. This rung one time, that rung the next, loyal to none of them. After you ask just once, though, that scatter is gone. Ask 1,000 times more, and you'll get the same answer 1,000 times over, faithful as a dog. And here's the piece to hold, that faithfulness is brand new. It was not there a heartbeat before you asked. The first question didn't merely read a value off and leave the state as it found it. It manufactured the very steadiness that lets the value be asked for again and come back the same. You forced the thing to settle in the very act of interrogating it, and the settling is real, and it's lasting, and it simply wasn't there until you looked.
So the asking didn't read the state at all. The asking rewrote it.
The asking created the answer and rewrote the thing you asked about, both in the very same stroke. There was no answer sitting in the blend, waiting to be discovered. There was only a set of odds. You ask, nature rolls those odds, snaps the state onto one note, and reports its tag. The value you so proudly measured did not exist a moment before you asked. Your question is the thing that made it real.
Right, let me say back the thing that's making my skin crawl, because I want to hear exactly how absurd it sounds in the open air. If I don't ask, the atom hasn't decided. And if I do ask, I made it decide?
That's it. That's the whole crawling truth of it, laid bare.
That's monstrous. That is a waiter who doesn't take my order at all. He strides over, decides entirely for himself what I'm having, physically shoves me into whichever chair across the room he happens to like best, and then looks me dead in the eye and swears blind that's the chair I'd been sitting in the entire time.
That is the most accurate account of quantum measurement I have ever heard given at a dinner table. The rude waiter. He doesn't fetch what was there. He plants you somewhere of his choosing, and then rewrites the history of the evening so it reads as though you were always there. And the maddening thing is that he isn't even lying quite. Once he's shoved you into the chair, that is where you are. Ask again, and you're still sitting in it, meek as anything.
So there's no catching him out, this waiter. I can't just measure fast enough. Quick before he shoves me and glimpse the real seat I was in all along.
There's nothing there to catch. That's the piece that takes the very longest to swallow, so do sit with it a moment. There was no seated position before he picked one for you. No quiet fact of the matter about where you were sitting that he then sneakily overruled. The shove isn't papering over some earlier truth about your seat. The shove is the first moment and the only moment that any truth about your seat exists at all.
I want to fight this. I can feel the fight rising, but I can see you already bracing. So let me ask the fair question first. This jump, this shove, is it something we actually understand? Or is it one of those doors you crack open for a second and then quietly shut on my fingers?
I'll give you one straight sentence about it, and then not another. Because what lives behind that door is a whole other night's fire. What the jump truly is, underneath, whether the blend genuinely collapses or only ever seems to, is unsettled to this day, and careful people disagree about it in good faith. But the rule itself, the part you can watch and measure, is nailed down past any doubt anywhere. You get one item off the menu at the odds set by the squared arrows, and the state is left sitting on that item. That much no one argues with.
One door opened a crack and left honourably ajar. I'll take it, and I won't lean my whole weight on it. But I'll say this. All of it is very hard to credit about a world that, from up here where I'm sitting with my solid cup of tea, looks perfectly definite and well-behaved. Where does any of this actually show its face?
Everywhere. That's the part I love most about tonight. It isn't dry bookkeeping. It's been staring at you out of every shop window your whole life. Heat up a scrap of some element until it glows. Now, what would you expect to see if you spread that glow out into its colours?
A smooth spread, surely. A little rainbow smear, fading off at both ends. Heat is a messy, shove-everything business. I'd expect a mess of light out the far side.
You'd expect a smear, and you get the exact opposite. Spread that glow out, and you find a barcode. A handful of sharp, bright lines standing at particular colours. This one, that one over there, with pure darkness in the gaps between them. And each element paints its own barcode, its own and nobody else's. The same lines every single time, whether you strike it in this room or read it off a star.
And a barcode is a menu. Those few bright lines are the only colours the thing is allowed to give off. The dark gaps are the "not on the menu, sir."
There it is. You arrived before I could lay it out for you. A colour of light is really a lump of energy, and the atom can only ever shed the exact differences between the rungs of its energy ladder. So the light comes out only at those particular colours. The spacings of the menu, made visible, hung up in the air where anyone with a bit of glass can look at them. The sharp lines of the discreteness of the menu glowing at you.
And that's exactly why a chemist can toss a pinch of some powder into a flame and name the stuff on sight, just from the colour that leaps up, the old flame test. The colour's a fingerprint.
A fingerprint no two elements can share. Each one carries its own ladder of rungs, so its own set of spacings between them, so its own particular barcode of colours. A signature it can neither fake nor hide nor smudge. It's precisely how we know what a distant star is made of without going anywhere near the thing. We catch its light after all those years of travel, spread it out into its colours, and there's the barcode. Line for line, the very same menu that element glows with in a little dish on a bench down here.
So every grubby neon sign in every side street is a menu I could have been reading my entire life and never knew it.
Every neon sign, every flame that flares a strange colour when the wrong salt falls into the fire. Every barcode of light of every star in the whole sky. The lumpiness of the quantum world. Energy in rungs, light in sharp lines, and next week a direction in space coming in only 2 flavours. It's all one single fact, wearing a dozen different coats. The allowed answers form a discrete menu because the settled states are a discrete set. The abstraction was never hiding from us in an ivory tower. It was in the shop window the whole time, buzzing.
That genuinely rearranges something in my head. I'd always half assumed the quantum, in quantum mechanics, was some fiddly technicality, a footnote for specialists. It's this, isn't it? It's just that the answers come in a list.
That's the word doing precisely what it promises. A quantum is a lump, a rung, a single line on the card. The whole subject is named after the plain fact that the answers come pre-listed. Now, are you steady in that chair? Because there's a deeper turn still, and it's the most beautiful and the most disturbing thing I'll say to you all night, and I'd rather you were bracing for it.
I've been sitting down since the start, and I've weathered a rude waiter and a shredded history. Deliver it.
So far I've let you picture going round the room, asking your questions one at a time. Energy here, position there, and collecting a neat little answer to each, and stacking them up like a shopping list. Here is the thing that tears that picture in half. Some pairs of questions cannot both be settled at the same time. Ever.
Cannot both be settled. Give me the plain shape of that before you give me the meaning of it, because I can feel myself about to leap to the wrong conclusion.
The shape is this, and take it slowly. Pick two particular questions. The settled states of the first, its pure notes, are not the settled states of the second. And it's worse than merely not the same list. A state that is a perfect, ringing, pure note for the first question is, the moment you look at it through the second, a jangle, a blend. Settled for one, scrambled for the other. Every time, without a single exception.
So there's no state anywhere that manages to be a pure note for both questions at once.
None. Not one. Not ever. Not for anything. The two questions share no settled state anywhere in existence. And now follow where that forces you, step by careful step. Suppose I've just measured the first question, so the state is sitting pure and razor-sharp on one of its notes. A perfectly definite answer to that first question. What is it at that same instant with respect to the second question?
It's a blend. It has to be. If it's a pure note for the first, and no state is ever a pure note for both, then seen through the second question, it can only be a jangle of several notes piled together.
Which means the second quantity has no definite value. And I want to be careful with those words, because they're the whole point. Not a value you happen to be unable to reach, not a value hiding behind a fog. A value that is not there. A spread of possibilities, and nothing sharp underneath the spread. The instant you make one answer razor sharp, you have forced the other into fog. Not by clumsiness, by what the two questions simply are.
Now hold on, because my every instinct is halfway out of this chair with the obvious objection, and I'll be cross if you've already got it cornered. Isn't this just, I measured the first thing, and the act of measuring it knocked the second thing out of true? My great clumsy instrument barged in and jostled it.
I knew you'd reach for that one. Everyone does. It's the most natural grab in the world. And I'm going to take it gently out of your hand, because it is the single most popular wrong idea in this entire subject. It is not clumsiness. It is not your instrument jostling the poor thing. The second value was not there to be jostled in the first place.
But surely a big rough measurement does disturb what it touches. That's just true.
It can, and that's exactly the comfortable half-truth the wrong idea feeds on. So let me close the escape properly. Imagine a perfect measuring device, flawless, feather light, touching the state so gently it might as well not be there. Even that could not read both of these questions sharply at once, because a state that holds a sharp answer to one of them does not possess a sharp answer to the other. Full stop, before any device is ever built. The fog was never smeared on by the looking. The fog is what the state already is.
That is a colossal thing to claim, though, and I won't let it pass unchallenged. How could anyone possibly know the sharp value isn't simply hiding, that it's truly, genuinely absent, and not just a fact I've failed to read?
Because a world where the value sat there secretly all along, merely hidden from us, makes flatly different predictions from a world where the value isn't there at all. And every time we go and check, nature comes down hard on the side of isn't there. You already met the shadow of this at the two slits. A particle carrying a secret, settled path through one slit could never paint those stripes on the far wall. The stripes are nature's own signature on the confession. No sharp, hidden value tucked away underneath, nothing at all up her sleeve.
Give me a pair, make it something real, because two abstract questions is still too slippery to actually bite me.
The oldest pair in the whole book. Where a thing is and how fast it's going, its place and its motion. And here's the part that should make your neck prickle. You already met exactly why these two can't be co-settled, a good while back, without my ever calling it this. A state with one perfectly definite motion is a single pure wave, one clean, unbroken winding, spread out evenly across the whole of space, with no location anywhere at all.
And a state pinned to one sharp place
Is a great heaped-up pile of different windings jammed together to make a spike in one spot. And a pile of different windings is a whole spread of motions at once. So there it is, drawn out. The settled states of where, the sharp location states, are exactly the jangles of how fast. And the settled states of how fast are smeared flat across every possible where.
So I could never build the wave I've secretly been wanting this whole time. A neat little spike sitting at one spot, with one clean, single winding threaded right through it. Sharp place and sharp motion, standing politely side by side.
You could never build it, and now the reason fits in a single breath. A spike is a whole pile of windings heaped together, while a single winding is no spike at all. The two demands pull dead against each other, and no wave that has ever existed can serve both masters at once. It was never that our hands shake too much to draw it cleanly. It's that the thing you keep asking for is simply not a shape a wave is permitted to take.
So the menus genuinely don't overlap. There is no single state that's a clean, pure note for both place and motion together.
You've said it more plainly than I was going to. The two menus refuse to share a note. Sharpen the one, and you have built the other out of a blend. You have fogged it with your own hands by the very act of sharpening its partner. That trade you already know in your bones. Tonight you get to see the machinery turning underneath it. Two questions, and not one settled state in common.
And I can feel exactly what this is now. This is the uncertainty, the famous one, the blur nobody can beat, however fine they grind the lens.
That's it, born again in a deeper form. We once built it as a fact about waves. Sharpen the place, smear the motion, and no cleverness escapes the trade. Here it is a second time, from further down. Some pairs of questions share no settled state, so no state can hold a sharp answer to both, so one answer's sharpness is always, unavoidably, the other answer's fog. The same law. Two faces of it. And it doesn't stop at place and motion. Next week you'll watch this happen to a single tiny thing, measured along two different directions in space, right there on a bench, with magnets.
With magnets? So this two directions in space business, that's the very same shredder from before, just swapping the ruler for a compass?
The very same shredder, and it's the cleanest stage you will ever see it perform on. Ask a little thing which way it points along one chosen direction, and pin that answer down to a razor, and its pointing along a crosswise direction drops straight into fog, because those two questions share no settled state between them either. But I'll not spoil it. You'll watch a real beam do exactly this next week, and I promise it bites far harder when you see it split in front of you than when I merely stand here swearing to you that it will.
So nature quite simply will not keep both of those answers on file at once.
That's the running cruelty of the whole business, put as plainly as it goes. Picture nature keeping a filing cabinet with one iron rule. To write one of these paired answers down, sharp and clear, she has to feed the other straight into the shredder. File the place, the motion comes out the bottom as confetti. File the motion, the place goes to ribbons. She owns exactly one clean sheet of paper, and any pair of questions like these two is condemned to share it.
And is that shredder the meanest thing in all of physics then? Or is there something almost, I don't quite have the word for it, something almost elegant about it, once the first sting of it wears off?
There's something I find close to beautiful in it, on a good night, once you've stopped flinching. Think about what the shredder is really telling you. It isn't that nature is stingy, hoarding answers she's got locked in a drawer out of reach. It's far deeper and far odder than meanness. Two of these enemy questions genuinely disagree about what the world even is. One of them carves reality up into pure notes of place. The other carves the very same reality into pure notes of motion. And those two carvings do not line up anywhere, ever. So to hold the one carving perfectly sharp is to smear the other into fog, and not because you fumbled the job, because they were never two views of a single hidden pile of facts sitting underneath, waiting to be uncovered. They are two different ways of bringing the facts into being at all. The world doesn't arrive pre-carved, with every answer already cut. You choose a carving the moment you choose a question, and the carving you didn't choose stays a blur. That's not spite. That's the price of a world that hadn't made up its mind before you asked it to.
A universe running on one sheet of paper and a very enthusiastic shredder. That's the management I've been living under this whole time, and nobody thought to tell me.
For that particular kind of pair, yes. But let me be fair to the management, because she isn't cruel across the board. That matters and people forget it. Plenty of pairs of questions get along beautifully. They share their whole menu of settled states, every last note in common. Ask both of those, and you can pin them both, sharp, at the same instant. No shredding required. Everyone goes home happy.
Then give me one of those friendly pairs, would you? A couple of questions that actually get on, so I don't walk out of here convinced every question in physics is forever at every other one's throat.
Take a settled state of the energy question, one clean rung of the atom. That very same state can, at the very same instant, hold a perfectly sharp answer to a question about the shape of its orbit, the character of its swirl. Because those two questions happen to share their whole set of pure notes, every last one of them. Ask them both, pin them both, no fog anywhere, the shredder left idle in the corner. Those are the questions that can sit companionably at one table. It's only the enemy pairs, the ones with no note in common at all, that can never manage it.
So it's not that every question is at war with every other question.
Far from it. Most questions are on perfectly good terms. It's only the special enemy pairs, place against motion, and their close relations that have no shared note, and so are forced onto that one sheet of paper. The trouble isn't smeared everywhere across physics. It sits in exactly the places where two menus flatly refuse to overlap, and nowhere else.
That's a strange relief, actually. It'd be an unlivable madhouse if every answer shredded every other answer the moment you wrote it down.
It would be, and it isn't. The world holds its shape because most questions are friends. It's only the enemy pairs that force the choice on you. Now, before we reach for the door, let me be square with you about one thing, because I've kept a promise all night that I want you to notice I kept.
You have. I've noticed the total absence of anything on this table I'd have to squint at or take on faith. Not a single symbol all evening.
Deliberate, every second of it. The full machinery of all this is written down in a mathematics of these operations, a proper, exact language for reshaping states and reading the tags off them. We've kept the entire night in plain speech instead. But I don't want you walking home thinking plain speech meant watered down, or that I've been feeding you a nursery version. The physics is all here, and it is exact.
Then give me the skeleton in one breath, the true bones, symbols or no symbols, so I know precisely what I'm carrying out the door.
An observable is an action you do to the state, not a number stamped on it. Its allowed results are the tags on its settled states. That's the menu, and you never get anything off it. Measuring forces a jump onto one of those settled states, at odds set by the squared arrows, and leaves the state sitting right there. And some pairs of questions can't be answered together at all because they share no settled state. And that's the uncertainty. Those bones are the real thing. The symbols would only hang muscle on exactly those bones.
And nothing in all that muscle would ever turn round and overturn the bones. There's no symbol lying in wait to pipe up, Actually, the plain words version the two of you agreed on was a comforting little fib.
Not one. The symbols make it sharper. They let you compute the odds out to as many places as your patience allows, tell you exactly which pairs are enemies and by precisely how much they feud. But they say the identical thing we've said all night. Action, menu, jump, incompatible pairs. If the words felt strange to you this evening, that strangeness wasn't the words straining past their limit. That was the physics itself, arriving in the room fully intact.
And you're quite sure you haven't slipped anything past me by leaving the symbols in the drawer? That's the genuine story, only spoken aloud instead of written down.
The genuine story, spoken. The one thing I won't let you leave believing is that we've explained why nature chose these particular operations, why energy gets the reshaping it does and place gets another one entirely. We haven't. No one reasoned that into being here tonight from something deeper underneath. This is the confirmed rulebook of how the quantum world answers questions, tested to a fineness that ought to frighten you, not a thing we've cleverly derived from first principles. We've been reading nature's rulebook aloud. We didn't write a word of it.
Then here's the thought that's going to walk home with me and keep me up, and I want to say it plainly before it slips away. Every other science I've ever met reads the world, takes down what's already there. This one does something else entirely. This one puts a question and then waits to see what the world will commit to.
And the world commits only from a card it printed before you ever spoke. That's the whole of it in one sentence. You ask, it answers off a fixed list. And the asking settles what had, until that instant, been genuinely unsettled. Not reading. Not quite bargaining either. It's more that the world was holding off, refusing to make up its mind, right up until something asked it to. And even then it will only ever make that mind up in the ways it quietly decided on, long and long before you arrived.
Reading, not writing. I can hold that line firmly. And truth be told, it's the more astonishing way round, that the rulebook is this strange, and it simply, stubbornly is.
That's the right thing to let astonish you. And it sets up exactly where we go next, because we've been abstract all evening long. States, operations, menus, settled states, blends, shredders. All of it lovely and all of it bloodless. Next time we make every last scrap of it flesh, using the very smallest example there is to be had.
The two-line menu, the vending machine with 2 buttons you dangled in front of me an hour ago and then walked away from.
That one exactly. A question whose entire menu is 2 answers. Up or down, and nothing ever in between. And a real experiment, so simple it's almost impertinent, where you fire a beam of atoms through a lopsided magnet, and instead of the smooth smear anyone sane would predict, you get 2 spots. 2. A clean gap between them, and nothing whatsoever in the middle.
2 spots. The menu, made out of nothing but light and dust, sitting on a screen where I can finally point my finger at it.
And that 2-answer thing turns out to be the humblest, most stripped-down object in the entire quantum world. Tonight's whole machinery, with every last bit of clutter, filed clean off it. It carries a name that is going to matter enormously to us before this course is done. The qubit. But that's next week's fire, and this one's not quite burned out.
Then let me sit for one last second with the thing you set on the table at the very start, because I walked in tonight certain that measuring was reading, that a measurement wanders over and copies down what was already there. And I'm walking out with something I'll be turning over for a long, long while. It isn't that the world is slyly hiding its answers from me behind a fog I'm not sharp enough to see through. It's that the answers aren't there yet. The world doesn't carry every answer around with it in advance, waiting. And yet the moment I finally ask, it doesn't hand me chaos or noise or anything I please. It hands me one item, off a short, fixed, particular list. So the strangeness of it was never that reality is vague, it's that reality wrote the menu, settled every allowed answer down to the last line, before I ever walked in the door to order. I'll be at your step early. And this time I want to see those 2 spots with my own eyes.